9 billion names of pod.
From Atlanta.
It's nice to see that Coca-Cola is still causing diabetes in 2049.
It's the 9 billion names of pod with Dan Bauman and Michael Reed. I'm Dan Bauman.
I'm a Nexus 2.
So, let's talk about some stuff.
All right.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the Blade Runner 2049. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see it and then come back.
It's probably out of the theaters by now.
I think it's still there.
Is it still there?
It's been a couple weeks, but it didn't do great, did it?
No, it didn't.
So what did it end up doing?
Well, as of recording, it's done just a hair north of 78 million.
And the budget was what? We said
150.
150, okay.
So its saving grace is going to be foreign markets, mostly Asia.
Yeah, and it'll make its money back.
It might squeak to making its budget back.
Yeah.
Its production budget.
Right.
Its advertising.
Which is almost usually as much as the production.
No. Usually on these big films, it's a third to a half for promotion. And I'd say it's probably closer to a third on this one because they didn't go too heavy.
No, they didn't.
They didn't really go too heavy.
Thinking,
they
30 mil maybe?
I'd
30 to 40?
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything higher than 40, 45
right.
on the advertising budget.
Yeah,
but then we also have to include the the streaming sales, the on demand.
Yeah, it doesn't stop making money.
Right, exactly.
Once it leaves the theaters and the
right,
DVDs.
Right,
and
exactly. There's still going to be. It's look at it this way. It's kind of like how the original Blade Runner was. It was a flop financially.
Yeah.
And it's grown to become a cult classic. It's probably done very nicely in home video sales.
Well, they've put out several versions of it. There's at least 3 that I've seen.
Theatrical. Well, I've seen the original theatrical.
Okay, so there's 4. There's the theatrical.
Yeah.
There's the director's cut.
Yeah.
There's the final cut, and there was one more.
Was there one more?
I think there was one more. There's probably like a 30th anniversary version out now. So, they don't stop making money.
Terry Gilliam's like, I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain.
Mel Brooks has put out a new version of Young Frankenstein every year for the past 10 years. Like there's literally there's like a steelbook version and there's like and it's the same movie. There's nothing different on it. The Blu-ray.
Oh, it's just the packaging, or some of the extras.
Yeah, not even.
Well, I wouldn't say Mel Brooks put it out. I'd say that the studio put it out. I'm not quite sure what his ownership is or his continuing interest
well,
is.
I see him pimping it on on Twitter and stuff.
Oh, of course, because he gets a cut of it. Whether he's the one
behind it, probably not.
Yeah,
probably not.
There's you've heard artists go, don't buy this 30th anniversary of this album. There's one horrible demo that I did not authorize. They had it in their archives. They slapped it on there. Don't do it.
Yeah, they've done that to Rush a couple times. There's been like a bunch of compilations and Rush. Like the funny thing about Rush is that there is virtually nothing in the vault. Like there's nothing like we recorded all these songs for the album and never the like what they do ends up on the albums. That's it. So there's no like lost tracks or anything. But yeah, Blade Runner. Like I said, 4 or 5 versions of it at least.
Yeah, the one I watched recently in the run up to this, I think, was the final director's cut. With the 2 additional scenes.
Okay, what are the scenes? Because I watched right before we went and saw 2049. I watched the director's cut.
The most important one is the unicorn.
Yeah, there's one scene in the director's cut with the unicorn. So like
I cannot remember what the other one was.
Okay.
I mean, there are some people who are equipment limitations prevented us from bringing in a third expert who's a Blade Runner fanatic. I mean, I've watched Blade Runner, the original, probably, once every couple of years.
Yeah.
Because it's gorgeous. So I'm not as much of an expert on the film as some people might be.
No, myself either. Like I said, I enjoyed it, but it's not one of those things that it's the greatest thing of all time. Like I said, I think I was taken, and this might have been like why it was kind of a flop. I was kind of thrown by it because I grew up watching Star Wars and watching Harrison Ford in Star Wars, which is, bright and shiny and
different pacing, different everything.
Blade Runner is nothing like that whatsoever.
Now, it basically hangs a lot of philosophical questions on a sci-fi skeleton.
Yeah.
Much like Breaking Bad really has nothing at all to do with drugs. It's the
morality.
It's the morality. It's the human endurance. It's what a person does in any given situation, and drugs is just the catalyst to where they can tell that story. They could have easily told that story in other ways, in another but so.
And Blade Runner is kind of the same way. It's more about the morality of machines and slavery, kind of.
I boil it down to this: what does it mean to be human?
Yeah.
That is pretty much. And if
or alive,
and is it possible to have a soul if you were made and not born? See?
Yeah.
That's because let's face it, take all your memories out of your head right now. What's left?
Yeah.
That's it. So if you could create a biological copy of a human being and drop in some memories, plant some memories, then really what is the difference?
Now, there's always been some kind of not controversy, but discussion with the original as to whether or not Deckard was a replicant. Now, I watched, like I said, the director's cut right before we saw 2049, and I was watching for that to see like why, and I couldn't, other than Sean Young's Rachel saying, what about you or something. It was like one line that kind of alluded to it. I didn't like get any.
Well, I'll tell you, if you were watching the director's cut, he had a memory of a unicorn.
Right, I remember that.
Which does not exist. Unicorns are not real.
True.
Therefore.
Okay.
Right.
Now, I haven't read the Philip K. Dick story either.
Shamefully, neither have I.
Okay.
Neither have I. And I like where he goes with what it means to be human, what it means. How do you present yourself, or what is your own self-image? Another one of his works that was turned into a blockbuster film. Do you know what it is?
Total Recall, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can remember it for you wholesale.
Yeah.
And right then and there, if you wanted to have this great adventure and you go, and now you can remember having been on that adventure, is it any better or worse than having actually done it?
True. Yeah.
And you could have gone, swimming in a volcano, and just have the memory of doing that, but being safe.
Right.
They can tweak it like that.
Yep.
That is impressive, and that is something that's worth contemplating.
Yeah.
False memories, if you don't know they're false, does it really and even if you do, who cares?
Yeah.
You can remember that it actually happened.
Yeah, because what is it? What is a memory? I mean, it's something that's all it is. That's all that's left of that experience.
Exactly.
Now, whether that experience happened or not, does it invalidate it? I mean, it kind of does, but does it? That's I guess the morale.
If you have a memory of saving the president from an assassin's bullet and that president was assassinated, then yeah, if you're a Secret Service guy that failed to save the president,
yeah,
and you want to erase that and remember that you did save him, that's good for you in your own head, but in reality, this stuff is a little more subtle. Memories, childhood memories, and stuff. I've seen the things that are now all my memories will be washed away like tears in the rain. Rutger Hauer's speech from the original. And the thing is that if it's just in your head, you think back on past relationships or conversations, that's if it's all implanted, does it really affect anybody other than you?
Yeah.
And of course you can go to that person and go, man, why'd you say that? I never said that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a delicate where fantasy and reality can butt heads. So where do you stand on the Deckard question?
Well, it's kind of
It's a little
ambiguous, but it's kind of not. If we want to jump into the new movie, because Harrison Ford, again, spoilers, is in it, and he's old. And he aged, and
see, that's something we didn't think replicants could do.
Right.
But also, spoiler again, we didn't think they could reproduce.
Yes.
And that's the new concept brought in here.
Right.
They can't make them fast enough, so they make them able to get together and
make their own.
Right. So the question is, did a human mate with a replicant, or did a replicant and a replicant get it on?
Right.
Yeah. Right. And of course, if replicants can reproduce, who's to say that if their termination date or their expiration date is left open, that they couldn't age as well?
Well, in the opening of Blade Runner, it said, it goes into the history of the Tyrell Corporation, right, and these, using as slave labor,
right,
and when they started revolting is when they instilled the 4-year lifespan. So that means at one point there wasn't a 4-year lifespan.
Right.
So therefore, what model is, if Deckard is a replicant, what model is he?
Probably
is he a 4?
He's probably, well, actually he would have to be a 4 because he was hunting
6s.
He was hunting 6s,
yep,
and I believe what's going on in 2049 are the 8s.
I believe, yes.
So what is the 7?
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you remember what the serial number was on Rachel's bones? It started N7.
Did it?
That may have been the...
Well, that makes sense.
The original, the first line, the first experimentation, or whatever.
It kind of was,
with
because
reproducing.
If you remember, Tyrell was saying that she was the first. Well, her memories were implanted. She didn't know she was a replicant.
Right.
So okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. So, and that's another thing. If you're being used as slave labor, but your memories are planted to where you came to this naturally and this is what you chose, then you're technically, in your own head, you're not slave labor. You're just a guy working a job.
Right. Right.
So it's interesting.
A lot of moral questions or morality questions about that.
Oh yes.
Now I was very pleased because I didn't read. I hate like spoilers, and I hate going in knowing stuff, and I, not really on purpose, but I didn't read a lot about the new movie. Like, I saw some of the pictures, I didn't go in and
anytime there was a great article that said, hey, I bookmarked it and read it after the movie.
Right. And I didn't even bother doing that. I didn't bother like going into it. So
right.
When the movie started, again, spoilers, I had no idea that Ryan Gosling was a replicant. I had no idea that when they started calling him Skin Job, I was like, wait a minute, is he a replicant? And there it goes. I was like, oh, wow. So that was a really pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. And the fact that he was because he said that to Dave Bautista, his character, Sapo or something, he said, have you ever retired one of your own? And I've witnessed the miracle and all that. It was like, okay, wait a minute, is he a replicant? And then once he got back and laid it down and Skin Job on his front door and all that. So that was I was very happy about that.
And apparently now it's a lot easier to shall we say get confirmation of being a replicant. You can just pull down the bottom of their bottom eyelid,
the serial number on,
and scan it that way.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier than
instead of doing the whole void comp test for an hour and not getting exact results.
Exactly, and it's like that. I don't know why they did that originally. Maybe it's in the book and they didn't explain it in the.
I think it was to give it that ambiguity, so it wasn't just so easy as to be able to tell.
That's true. I mean, you could be walking in a herd of quote unquote skin jobs and never know it.
Yeah.
what did you think of my favorite part of the film, or aesthetic of the film? That art direction.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Just like the first one, it had its own. Even the like, I remember watching the special effects on Blade Runner, and I don't think they were remastered much, but even like the spinners, you know, you can like bad in camera. Not in camera. Bad special effects like the matte jobs and the matte paintings and all that. You can tell there are matte lines around stuff. It really worked in Blade Runner. Like the
Well, that's because everything was so damn dark and rainy. All the time.
Exactly.
You can hide a lot of
They
sins.
hid a lot of it, and it looked really good. And they kept that aesthetic. There wasn't there was no smokestacks, which I was a little, or the big fire stacks that were in the original, but.
Well, maybe there's nothing left to burn 30 years later.
Maybe, yeah.
Is it 30 years? When
20 it's 20 like 17 or something, 2016 or something.
Was that when Blade Runner was?
Yeah.
Yeah, cuz okay.
Yeah, or 2018, something like that, cuz it's I remember it was like, oh, it's really close to actually now, or 2019, something like that. It's like kind of interesting.
Like on Facebook it goes, "Today's the day that Marty McFly goes back in history to like, all right, whatever."
Yeah. But I thought it was a gorgeous movie. I mean, I thought it really held. That's why I was surprised that it only had a $150 million budget.
Well, there's not a lot of quote unquote, you know, pew 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 special effects. It's all in the art design. I'm sure there's a good chunk of CGI in that.
Yeah, but it was elegant. It didn't. It wasn't episode 2 like everything looks like a video game. Ugh. It was practical stuff, but the CG was just it was clean, it was smooth, and again, everything being dirty and shitty adds to it, you know?
Well, and that's the world you know, that's post-Trump America. You know, we're gonna look back on this time 30 years from now and go, God, remember when we had it so good, you know?
So what did you think of his holographic girlfriend?
Joy. That I think is probably the budget version of, how should I put it? In the future, a consumer can have a replicant companion.
Mm-hmm.
That costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But because if you're buying, you know, the same kind of quote unquote unit that could be a slave worker, that's a lot of, you know, value attached to that particular unit. So if you're buying quote unquote a girlfriend, a sex robot, or whatever it is, that's a lot of money. Whereas a projection, it's more budget.
It's hardware,
Yeah, exactly. It's a little more cost effective, and that might be something that they give to their skin job Blade Runners to keep them, you know, much like their memories are implanted to stabilize their personality. They're so close to being human that they would get lonely. So they give them the budget version of a companion.
Yeah.
They're not going to give them another replicant. Hell, that's too much money.
Right.
Right. They're going to give them I thought it was fine. It definitely added another layer, you know, to it. It's what is real to a human, what is real to a replicant. You know, it kind of broke my heart a bit when what's her name, Love, stomped on.
Yeah,
you know, and as soon as it said, "But if you erase me from the home, then," you know, I just know she.
Oh yeah, you knew she was a goner. Yeah, she lived in a. It starts out, it's a console version in his apartment with a projector on a track on his roof, or on his ceiling. Pardon me. And you know, so she was just in his apartment, and that's all. And when he got his bonus for retiring, what's his name, Dave Bautista, he bought the portable version, basically.
Yeah.
And when he was leaving, when he was being hunted, he decided to download her to the portable version, and you knew that it was not going to end well for poor Joy.
Yeah, poor Joy. But I think you know, as Americans and, you know, people in particular, I can't really speak to other countries, but at least in America, there's definitely a trend towards wanting to stay at home, to be in. And listen, if you've got, you know, companionship and Amazon will deliver everything you need, including groceries, I could definitely see what's called agoraphobia, I believe.
Yeah.
That's people are just going to develop a mild case. They're not going to be afraid to go out. They're just not really going to like doing it. Like, oh, I got to go out and do. All right.
I've read, or I heard an interview with somebody, some expert, and they said that there's an alarming trend among, I guess, millennials or whatever the next age bracket down is. That
what's that going to be?
I don't know.
Are we still in the millennial time frame?
We've got to be close to because the millennium was almost 19
yeah,
18
but I mean,
years ago.
You know, Generation X spanned almost 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
I think. So who knows? But anyway, whatever the next generation.
The next generation is that their human interaction, like the levels of teen pregnancy and STDs are very low because they're more interested in porn and staying home and virtual chatting than they are.
Yep.
And that's a good benefit of a bad problem, you know?
That is a positive side effect of a terrible problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, hey, we solved teen pregnancy and STDs. Great. Well, the problem is no one knows how to relate to humans.
And of course, what goes hand in hand with that is birth rates are declining already.
Right.
As people look at the world and go, yeah, no. Or they're waiting much later because the Republican Party is making it so much more difficult for anyone to scratch a buck out of this world if you're not already rich, that, you know, and insurance isn't covering stuff. So you're thinking, gosh, I'm 25. I'd like to have a kid, but good God, I can't even afford myself right now.
Yeah,
I can't afford
yeah.
a house. I can't afford health insurance. And they're waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yep.
And as, you know, guys apparently can, you know, be somewhat fertile well into their, you know, octogenarian age.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, women usually peters out, we'll call it 50, and it's difficult after 40.
Between 40 and 50.
And
yeah.
if you're waiting and waiting and waiting, it's getting difficult. We may get some kind of a modified Handmaid's Tale situation to where couples, they no longer carry their own kid because by the time they can afford it all, they're too old. So they just hire out to someone who's young.
Yeah, surrogacy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that being more prevalent than it is now. Obviously, that's happening now, but that's something that may be...
But that's more of a choice and more of a...
Right.
For people who can't conceive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and now, well, the same situation here. They can't conceive because they're too old.
Yeah.
Or apparently birth defects are far more prevalent once you reach a certain age. It's not guaranteed, but problems arise as, you know, the eggs are older and something like that.
Yeah.
You know, we're just baggies of blood, people, just doing dumb shit, and so let's talk about your favorite replicant and mine, Rachel.
Yeah.
Spoiler again.
Yeah.
She's back, but not.
I was interested. About halfway through the movie, which was a very long movie. that was my one complaint. I didn't think it dragged or was slow or anything, but it's definitely a long, slow pace.
It is, and that hurt it at the box office, because if you have a 90-minute film, you can cram in X number of showings, you know, because theaters aren't going to open 2 hours early just to show more of a longer film. They open when they open and they close when they close. And a 90-minute film's going to get, you know, 2 to 3 more showings a day than a film that clocks in very close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
I think it was like 2:40.
Yeah.
I want to say something like that.
So about halfway through, I was like, I wonder, because we got a cameo by Edward James Olmos.
We did.
which was very cool.
Very brief cameo.
Very brief, but at least he reprised his character's role.
And did you notice what he was doing?
Doing origami like he did in the first one, his signature thing.
Which makes me wonder, where the fuck is he getting paper from?
True.
Because is he independently wealthy? Is he a fucking sprite elf that
Don't know.
dances in the forest or something?
Don't know. There didn't seem to be much forest.
Yeah,
left. It was like that one tree was what they were like surprised about. On,
and it looked like a dead tree.
Yeah, because he was farming like bugs for protein.
Yes, it's a protein farm.
Yep.
You think, why are you calling it that? Well, if we call it Horrible Bug Farm, it wouldn't sound as good.
Right, and that's food at this point, and
Yep.
to be, not to sidetrack, but we're on that path. That's gonna have to happen here eventually.
Well, if the freaking Bible thumping religious nuts keep trying to force everyone to have every single baby that's they don't want to have birth control because it makes baby Jesus cry, and they don't want to have abortion because it makes baby Jesus cry. That's how we have
Deal with
our overpopulation. We're already overpopulated as it is now.
right.
What are we at, 6 billion?
I don't know.
They say it's going to top 10 billion by 2050.
Yeah.
The planet's not going to be able to sustain it.
Or we're not going to be able to grow
at
grow
least
enough
at the
food.
levels that we're at now. We're used to a certain lifestyle here in America.
Yeah, that's going to have to change.
Oh, yeah.
We waste a lot of food in this country.
We are, God, I wouldn't want to live I'm happy living in America.
At least for the next.
But man, what we throw away
is insane.
Could
it's
feed,
criminal almost.
Could feed a village.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But anyway, back to, we got a cameo from Edward James Olmos,
Yeah.
and everyone knows that Harrison Ford was back. So I was like, I wonder if Sean Young is going to make an appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Young, like as we've said before, kind of went off the deep end.
Well, she kind of did very well in the 80s and the early-ish 90s, and then apparently got a little erratic.
There was I think what really hurt her was the
Batman
thing.
Yeah.
When she basically showed up to Tim Burton's office in a Catwoman suit and harassed him to let her play Catwoman, and that was kind of the red flag for everybody, and I don't know if she really recovered from that.
Tim Burton's like, hey, I'm not dating you at the moment, so I can't put you in I can't put you in a film. I'm sorry.
That's just how it works.
That's how it works in Tim Burton land.
And so I was wondering, is she going to make an appearance? And she sort of did. There was definitely audio of her. They used some of the tracks from the movie.
Yeah.
When what was his name? When Ryan Gosling, what was his name?
K.
When he was starting to do his investigation, he ended up at the Jared Leto's corporation.
Tyrell.
Well, Tyrell was the original one. It was taken over by Neiman, I want to say.
Oh.
By Jared Leto's company, and he went into the vault and found basically the void comp test from Rachel and Deckard, and I was like, oh, and it was the real. And having just watched the original, it was as soon as they started talking, I was like, oh, the wasp on your arm, what do you do? All that stuff, and so I was like, okay, well, we got audio, and then again, spoilers, at the end, there she is, kind of, sort of,
and. Do you think that Sean Young had any participation in 2049?
No, I don't believe she did.
She did.
She did.
She was on set.
Was she?
Yep.
Okay.
She was on set.
Oh.
Just read about that.
Okay.
It was apparently kept very, very hush-hush. And the fact that she kept her mouth shut, which apparently is not something she's very good at, because she gets very...
Yeah, maybe she's mellowed out a bit.
And it's entirely possible that she did a couple of wacky things, and maybe she had a drinking problem at some point, and it's totally blown out of proportion. They just
chalk that stuff is
crazy woman doing crazy. You know what? Maybe she just had a couple of unfortunate events, and everyone spun this horrible story about what a psycho she is, and she's actually maybe a little quirky, maybe a little
And a lot of that was 20 years ago, if
Yeah.
not more.
Exactly.
So who knows what...
She's what, 50, like in her early 50s now, early
Right.
to mid 50s.
And they may have just said, okay, look, we want you involved in this as long as you're going to be cool about it, and
Well,
you know, we'll pay you, and it'll be...
Don't be
all
a psycho, please. You know.
right. All right, I
All
won't
right.
be a
But
psycho.
yeah, she was on set.
I did not know.
I read it. Yeah,
And to be completely honest, I mean, they basically Grand Moff Tarkined her.
yeah.
They basically mapped her face over another actress.
Yep.
For her appearance. And I got to tell you, man, it was damn good.
It was good,
I mean,
but not quite there. Because
it was
as
actually better than Tarkin, I thought, because it was.
yeah.
I mean, in Tarkin, like, it's better when you watch it than in your memory, because I keep watching it going, God, it is really good, you know, and then you remember it, it's like, oh, it was kind of video gamey, and then you're
Yeah.
watching it because, God, it is really
Yeah.
good. And I was literally fooled. I was like, is it her? I couldn't tell 100%.
well, I knew obviously I knew it wasn't her.
Well, I knew. Well,
but for a second there, I thought there's just there was enough different that I thought, did they find a really good lookalike?
Yeah.
Because it's just there's
or
certain
was it
little
like her daughter, or was it something?
Yeah,
that was
something
my
that-
first thought.
Right,
Is
is it
like,
something
is someone related?
Right, something very close, because it didn't quite. I can't put any other. I can't say anything other than when I see Rachel in the original Blade Runner, I have a certain reaction. I get an impression, a vibe, a feeling like, wow, you know.
She
And
was stunningly
Oh my-
gorgeous.
good Lord.
I mean, she was just perfectly gorgeous.
Yeah. And I found it really horrible that that Love had that kind of same tightly coiffed.
Yeah,
you
she
know,
had that pin-up kind of
Yeah.
hair, and they kind of, I mean, it was definite throwback
Yeah.
to
and I'm
Rachel.
like, no, but you're evil. I don't like that. but when 2049 Rachel came out, it was good. It was good. There was just something. I was standing on the edge of the uncanny valley, but I wasn't there.
But it's frightening how close it is.
Yeah,
at this
and you
point.
know what? If they're manufacturing replicants, it's not like pull out the the mold or whatever it is for Rachel. They probably had to reproduce it
from the ground up.
Exactly. So it's not.
Now, he had a line where he said her eyes were green. I don't remember her eyes being green, but that was, I just haven't looked.
I don't remember that either. But
That might have
either
been just
way, whether she had green eyes or not, he might have just said that as a way to go, whatever.
Yeah, that was a fuck you.
This is not. I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
You know.
you didn't get to me.
You're right.
That's what I thought.
If you're looking, we're talking about Deckard in question.
Yes.
They
'cause-
brought out Rachel as a way to convince,
coerce him
into revealing where what they were looking for, where the offspring was.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing. In almost 3 hours, I need to see the film at least 2 more times to really absorb it. So
That's the thing about Blade Runner. It's not, both of them. It's not a, they're very deep and very in I don't want to say intellectual, but I mean they're very complex, and
they're complex, but they on the surface it seems kind of simple. Androids, they're going crazy. I kill them before they do something bad. End of movie. Okay,
but there's more to
there's
it.
so much more.
There's so many layers
and
to
that, and
it.
that's why I think it's unfortunate that the film didn't do better, because that just shows that even a film that's a sequel to a cult classic can't grab America's attention. Like, this is bringing up profound questions about what it means to be human, the nature of memory. And no, they just want pew 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 and the boobies and that's all. You know.
I mean, the Marvel stuff is great, but it is flashy and it is bright and shiny.
It is what it is. I mean, if it asks any moral questions, which it does on occasion,
Yeah, they do, for sure.
It's very on the surface. They don't delve into. They don't have a 20-minute conversation between Captain America and Iron Man about the nature
right. If
of
they
morality.
do, it's a 2-minute conversation
Right.
that leads into a fight.
And that's what that film is. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect it. I mean, if Blade Runner, if 2049 had suddenly been like a Marvel film or like a Star Wars film, I would have walked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, this isn't Blade Runner, but this thing,
This was Blade Runner. They
this was
really did a good job.
absolutely Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I just can't. If that, I have to look up who did the art direction.
Yeah.
Because if they don't get an Oscar nom for this, I am going to be very surprised.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a huge fan of what they did on that.
absolutely.
So you weren't enjoying the very long length of the film.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. It was just it's not that I hated it because it was so long. I was just was surprised because we don't get that type of movie that much anymore. Very slow. Like I said, I don't think it dragged at all. It's just there's a lot to it. It is a big meal of a movie, you know, and it's very slow and very deliberate and very, you know, anybody else would have, they would have cut 20 minutes, 30 minutes to the film of little things here and there, like the scene where Joy is first introduced. That's like a 20-minute scene of her in the thing. That would have been a very, you know, they would have lopped a bunch of that out, but they didn't. They let it grow and they let it breathe and let you get to know these characters. Yeah.
How normal this is.
You know, how you're supposed to make a movie.
Right. Well, I knew that when he gets in there and you don't see her and you hear her, I'm going, okay, something's
it's in
coming.
his head.
Don't know what it's going to be.
I thought it was. He had the little thing on the desk, which was probably the Echo Dot, you know, the Amazon Dot thing, where the voice was coming out of, and then
Alexa, make me dinner.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what it was, and I was like, oh, that's his companion, but I didn't realize they were going to go full hologram. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Which, I mean, we've already started down that road.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, it started with, you know, the phones that are computers, or probably well before that, but it became prevalent amongst, you know, not just the computer nerds, even your most, you know, vapid teenager or vapid 50-year-old for that matter, probably has a smartphone. That starts the cyborgification of mankind.
I mean, we're there. I mean, look, hey Siri, how much money did Blade Runner make?
Answer is about 32.7 million US dollars.
Boom.
See,
and that's
I didn't do anything.
And say Siri,
I just said that into the air, basically.
Siri,
it won't work for you.
No, well, I'm wondering why, Siri. I didn't ask how much it made in America, you elitist bitch. I asked how much it made in, you know. Okay, all right,
but we have we're on that track,
right?
And total AI,
and it's only limited by the technology. Asking Siri and it goes beep 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 in the phone. By the time that we're dead or our children, you know, are, you know, old or whatever, we could have a Joy running around.
Absolutely, we're close. I mean, again, technology grows exponentially. We don't take a step, we take 10 steps, and then we take 100 steps, and then we take 1,000 steps. You know, it's frightening how fast it goes.
Right. Well, and that also brings us back to the question that I brought up, you know, at the top of the show. At what point do these quote unquote Siris and Alexas that have kept, when does it become like, oh, I can't do that because this is now a sentient being?
Yeah. When
does the soul happen? If you have self-learning AI, at one point, you know, because seriously, if a baby is born and for some reason is, you know, born completely deaf, dumb, blind, can't feel anything, does it have a soul?
Right. Well,
you know what I'm saying. It's the input that comes into it that it learns, and it forms memories and connections and stuff like that. You know, I mean, a lot of people, do you connect the soul to some religious dogma or the soul in a more...
Or does the soul actually exist? Is there a thing, you know...
I think it does, in the sense that...
I think it depends on your definition.
It's a word that describes who you are as a person.
I agree. Yeah, it just
In other
been
words,
co-opted by religion.
if your memories are suddenly erased, your soul is gone. In my opinion, because that's who you are. Otherwise, you're just $1.98 worth of chemicals
and water.
and and a whole bunch of water.
Yeah.
So, at what point in the progression of AI, if the AI is in a little cylinder on your desk, can you abuse it in the same way that people would if it was a replicant, for lack of a better term?
Right.
And let's face it, all new technological advances, what they go for as soon as possible.
Well, what spurs it?
Porn or sex.
Yeah.
Everything.
Every
think
technological
of
advance.
every single advance and try to think of
we
how
wouldn't have home video if it wasn't for porn, to be honest.
We would, but it wouldn't have grown the way Dan, I'm not going to spend $800 so you could watch some $100 video cassette of your favorite movie. Oh, what? I can get porn in the mail
and not have to
go to a theater and Pee Wee Herman it?
Yeah.
Well, hell yeah. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yep, that's
Boom.
exactly.
And
computers and everything, the internet.
Exactly. And I think I read an article or read a headline of an article, because I didn't really give a shit to actually read the thing, but apparently the first sex androids or something, Japan, always Japan with I just want to go over there what's going on where just
the weirdest shit goes on in Japan.
Okay, well, hey, they're going to be nuked at any second by Kim Jong Un now. So who knows? Might as well live it up while you can.
I always think it's funny. Can you imagine if we somehow brought back Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov, brought him back to life, and we showed him Siri on a smartphone? They'd be like, weren't you listening? We warned you about
I told you about this.
These things are going to
kill
you.
I believe it was I don't know if it was Bradbury or Asimov. I want to say it was Asimov's. I don't predict the future. I try to prevent it.
Yeah,
because
that sounds like Bradbury to me.
Is it Bradbury?
Yeah, it sounds like Bradbury.
Because it's never the sci-fi stories are never this great creation happened and mankind was better. The end.
No,
it was more how it got out of control or man used it horribly.
Well, that's usually what it is. It's man abuses it, and
right.
And the 3 laws of robotics: they must not harm humans, no matter what they do. Humans do to them.
Well, explain to me Will Smith and iRobot. That harmed me horribly.
Yeah, that movie did not. I don't even think I saw it, because I remember reading the book. That is one I actually read.
Yeah.
And it was 90 pages, and I saw a rundown of the iRobot movie. And it said Will Smith plays a cop, and I was like, "There's no cop in the story," and I didn't, and that was where it ended for me. I was like, "No, I'm not going to see this movie because it has nothing to do."
Yeah, on one of the Harlan Ellison CDs I did, there's a story about how he adapted iRobot into a screenplay, and his notes back from the studio were the robots aren't cute enough. This is in the aftermath of 77 with Star Wars. So they wanted, beep, beep, boop, boop, boop,
Yep.
that kind of bullshit. It's like, that's not that story.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me to tell another story? That's not what this is. And it's just, oh, Hollywood. But anyway, back to...
Well, it's like the every version of I Am Legend is wrong. I don't know if you've ever read the book.
I have not.
It's same thing, like the Omega Man and whichever one. There was, I think, an I Am Legend in the 50s or 60s.
The Omega Man, that was Heston, right?
That was Heston.
Yeah.
So there was one before that, and then there was the Will Smith one after all that.
That bombed horribly.
That bombed horribly, and they kind of missed the whole point of the whole thing. So
that's probably where they focus group the script or something like that and go, I don't understand. And that's part of what Harlan was talking about in his work. I can either dumb down my shit so far that the masses can appreciate it,
right,
or I can strive to elevate, and maybe I'm going to lose some people, but I'm going to create art at the level I want to.
Or I'm going to make a movie of the story that it's supposed to be based on. You know,
no, we know better than the original author. We can make it better.
my biggest complaint always about like comic book movies is you have a fucking storyboard. Here is the story. Tell this story. I
Yeah.
don't know what the fuck you're doing over there.
You know what you have to do to get a film together? You know, you storyboard out things. Guess what? It's already done for you.
Yeah, somebody did it.
It's right there.
Originally, yeah.
You know?
It's not that hard.
You might need to expand a little dialogue, but other than that, it's right there. Shoot that.
Which again, not to digress, or I am curious to see the new version of Murder on the Orient Express. Okay.
I am. I see. Yeah.
And I won't even spoil it here if anyone's not seen it. I'm just curious if they keep the ending the same, because it has a very famous and genre breaking ending and solution to the story. So I'm very curious to see if they fuck that up. You know. I remember that was always my, my dad used to get, so and I'm sure I've told this story before, but my dad used to he would laugh at me because I would get so riled up about the comic book movies, about I was like, but that's not what that is, and that's not who he is, and that's not what his suit looks like, and that's not this and that. And he was like, well, what does it matter? And I said, okay, let me put it in terms you can understand. Imagine if they made, and I think I said, imagine if they made a new version of Murder on the Orient Express. And he said, okay. And I said, and for no explained reason whatsoever, Poirot was Australian. He said, well, that would be wrong. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
There are parameters that we can go, it's already there. We don't have to change it to make it better, to make it...
But then there's the people that would say, well, how can we have a female Doctor Who now? That's not the way. But it's not integral to the story.
And we can, because those rules can be changed.
Exactly.
And there is precedent.
But people will say stuff like that. But then again, you know what? If they were dumb enough to say that, they're not watching Doctor Who to begin with.
Absolutely not.
Oh gosh. So I want to bring up my favorite. I don't want to say guest star because that's television. Supporting actor person.
Okay.
Mackenzie Davis.
She
was the hooker.
Oh, okay.
She was
good, yeah.
I think Mackenzie Davis is on track to be an Oscar winner in the next 3 to 7 years if she gets the right.
I have never seen her before. At least I don't realize what.
Halt and Catch Fire.
Okay, gotcha.
Phenomenal actress.
Right.
International class beauty. Just.
Yeah, there were some gorgeous women in this movie in Blade Runner. For like all of them were just. Joy was stunning, and so was Mackenzie Davis and Love, and just. Ugh.
Yeah, well. But it was kind of sexy without being exploitive or, I think. We did get some nudity when she was the
giant hologram, 50-foot porn hologram.
Yeah, exactly. Which is another thing, you're walking along the street, and of course you have whatever the 2049 version is of your iPhone with you, a chip or whatever, or visual or facial recognition. It can look and go, hey, Dan Bauman. Hey, how would you like to come with me, Dan Bauman? And it would just integrate it. It would come in and, 50-foot woman.
Interesting.
I'm curious.
Right.
And by that point, maybe the technology will exist that you could actually go to bed with a hologram. I don't know how that works.
Well, it didn't, because you remember she had to bring in the replicant.
Right, exactly.
And
merge.
In what was described in one of the reviews as the weirdest sex scene they've ever seen. It was very odd. Yeah, Joy, again, exactly like you said, I think he had the projector with him. She wasn't turned on or anything. And when he was talking to, what the hell was her name? Mackenzie Davis.
I do not remember.
Clarice or something like that.
Clarice.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that. But when he was talking to her, and she was like, she hired her. Joy hired the hooker to come to the apartment. Like, so they have access to the web or, integrated, and said, I knew you liked her.
Well, then we know Kay certainly doesn't have Comcast because that
that would never work.
nope. Nah.
Yeah, Verizon.
Speaking of brands, Coca-Cola.
Sony.
But what's the one brand that you're going, huh?
No.
Pan Am. What the hell is Pan Am doing in 20? Pan Am doesn't exist now.
It was in the original Blade Runner.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe
So
we're...
it was a throwback to the original. Like, we
okay.
kept it. It's not... That ain't now. That's Blade Runner.
It's Blade Runner 2049,
Right.
not us on our way to 2049 where Pan Am still exists.
Yeah, the Coke and the Sony make complete sense because Coke is owned by Sony, and it was Columbia Pictures anyway,
Right.
which was also a Coca-Cola Sony company.
Right.
But yeah, the Pan Am I think was just a nice little nod to the original. Because
yeah.
Pan Am's been gone for
Right. Because as soon as I saw that, I'm going like,
decades.
okay, so this isn't a, well, it's not a cautionary story about our future.
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
really. It's a contemplation on
Within this-
humanity and stuff, and it's that world.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
happens to bear a striking resemblance to what we might think our world might be. But then again, when the movie came out in '82, what do we say? Blade Runner then was
2019,
something like that. Unless things, well, Trump's president right now, so who knows if everything goes dark, rainy, and it could get a little weird. And you notice how the tall billboards and stuff in the original, very reminiscent of your favorite country and mine, Japan.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
over there it's like freaking Vegas in places.
Oh, yeah. Tokyo
mean,
is insane.
yeah.
I mean, now, you can imagine, 30 years from now, it's
Well,
going to be that.
They need a lot of power to run those, and last time I checked, they had a bit of a meltdown over there.
Yeah, they sure did.
So
Yeah, they sure did.
But don't worry about that, Dan. You know what? We're the only. I think there's only one nuclear power plant being constructed in the United States. Guess where it is?
Where?
Georgia.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
Great.
it's in the southern part of the state. So we might
We're far enough away.
we
but-
might lose our hair. or our skin may shrivel up, but we're not going to die in the blast radius.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, we'll just die slowly and painfully.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the question. Would you rather die slowly and painfully and survive, or you know what? Turn me into a like a dark outline against a wall. That's
yeah,
fine.
if it blows, I want to be next to it when it goes.
I'd be
vaporized.
Exactly. I'll
so-
have a lot of fun for a millisecond.
Now, speaking of going forward,
Yeah.
did you get the impression that they were lining up for a sequel? I mean, I think they were anyway. I don't know if there will be one just from box office.
Yeah. I think that they wrote it with the possibility.
Yeah, because that's what you do.
Kind of like when you're on a TV series, you don't know if you're going to get the next season. So you wrap it up in a way where you could continue it if you needed to.
Somewhat open-ended, but not definitive.
Right, exactly. And of course, people who are looking to find out if Deckard is a replicant, you're not going to find your answer
Right.
in this film.
No, not really.
It's
not definitive.
It's not definitive. I think Ridley Scott said he's a replicant. Harrison Ford has said no, he's human. Now, of course, between the two, Harrison Ford's just the actor. I would believe Ridley, but then again,
No, you got to ask Philip K. Dick. Really, that's who you got to ask.
I'll get right on that.
Yeah.
Maybe after the bomb drops, I can join him in the afterlife and go, hey.
Hey, by the way, because it did seem like they were setting up like a replicant uprising.
Blade Runner Revolution.
Yeah, I mean, if this made $200 million opening weekend, maybe, but I doubt it.
It's possible that it will do well in foreign markets. There's some films that they make, they might release it over here, but they know that it's not going to really do too well over here. It's for the foreign markets. They can pick up an extra maybe 30 mil over here,
Yeah.
but they're going to make the bulk of their money overseas.
Yeah, China is the biggest market
Exactly.
in the world.
Right.
For everything.
Yeah, for everything. So it's entirely possible that when all is said and done, when streaming, on demand, pay-per-view,
Discs
and stuff come out, Sony may look at it and go, yeah, but let's get it closer to 100 mil
Yeah.
rather than 150 mil.
So more CG and shorter runtime.
And of course, if that's the case, true to form, Harrison Ford will go, all right, I'll come back, but you got to kill me.
Yes, absolutely.
You got to kill me in the first reel. And that's
yeah. I'm going to do 1 day on this thing.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So, or maybe they'll bring back Sean Young and go, she never died. It would, that would be horrible, but
Yeah. Or this is the actual person that Rachel was based on, or whatever.
It's possible.
And yeah, they could write that, spin that, but that's not what it's going to be.
yeah, but that's not what it's about.
It would be, and honestly, I don't think Ford would do it. It would, him and his daughter would be off somewhere in hiding. And
Well, remember, if I remember correctly, his daughter is in that room because
she can't go anywhere.
she's immune compromised.
Right.
And that's a great question that brings into all right. So replicants can now reproduce, but
They're not perfect.
It's not quite right.
Yeah.
It's not like the first human progenitors. Neanderthal or whatever they were. Started humping and produced a long line of healthy babies immediately.
No.
There's probably a lot of horrible shit going on,
Yeah.
and stillbirths and spontaneous abortion in the womb and all that other stuff.
Well, that's what
before
evolution is.
takes care of it.
Yeah.
So if anything, the way to do the sequel is to take it 100 years in the future,
Right.
And maybe show a flashback where Harrison does his 1 day.
Yep.
I remember I was there when Deckard, and they show that, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's all about we have now perfected the next, the
evolution.
generation.
Yeah, Blade Runner evolution is
Exactly.
what it would be.
There we go.
We're gonna pitch this, Sony, so we're coming.
Okay. I could write that.
Yeah.
I would love to write that.
Yeah.
But that would be an interesting concept because that brings it really into sharp focus. This isn't just, what is human to this replicant. This is a group.
Yeah.
This isn't a renegade replicant here, there.
This is we're tired of your shit and we're done with
Exactly.
you. And we can create ourselves. So
Blade
we
Runner
don't-
Uprising.
Yeah, we don't need you anymore, is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
We don't need humans anymore, so bye-bye.
Yeah, exactly. You can't turn us off.
Right.
You can't, we can reproduce. We don't have expiration dates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So now, when Kay was first being run into, I wish I remembered the name of the corporation, Jared Leto's.
Yeah, it was
pal-
like Neiman, something like that, I believe.
I gotta tell you, man, I want a room that's like a platform in the middle of like a little reflecting pool. That was just
Like you said, the art direction was insane.
oh my gosh. I mean, and the cinematography and the whole bit, very gorgeous. But did you notice, as they were walking down, some of the preserved replicants?
Yeah.
And did you notice something about one of them?
No. I mean, probably not what you were going to say, but
Looked an awful lot like something from another Ridley Scott franchise.
from Alien?
Yeah.
Was there a... No, I don't know what you're saying.
Engineer.
Was there?
Looked, not confirmed, looked very much like an engineer. And if you remember, there's a line, I honestly cannot remember where it was, where Whale, I can't remember if it was in Prometheus or in that shit show sequel.
Yeah, the one that just came out.
Yeah. Waylon was
Resurrection
talking about, a golden god who sat in a pyramid. Well, guess where Tyrell
True.
and maybe now keep in mind that Alien takes place 130 years after the events of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So it's not like, but it is it possible that Tyrell or his or Wallace created the engineers? Or maybe it's just a mind fuck that they threw in there.
This might be me making shit up, but I think I remember Ridley Scott at one point saying that the Blade Runner and the Alien universes are the same. I mean, you think about it, it's the Tyrell Corporation and now the Wallace Corporation and the Weyland-Yutani Corporation,
Right.
and the way, so
But big corporations don't merge. That
No,
never
no,
happens.
no. And they don't control anything. No.
Well, both universes, or the same universe, they both have synthetic life forms.
Yeah.
So
And they are very similar, so, but I always thought, see, maybe it's the other way around, because doesn't it seem like in Prometheus they were alluding to the fact that the engineers created humans,
Right.
So how does maybe he's retrofitting, or maybe he's trying, see, maybe that's just a little like, here you go, Ridley, because it was it Dennis Villeneuve directed
Yes.
24/9, so
Yeah. Well, Dan, have you ever thought that perhaps we're the replicants?
like
And
Yoni, or
the engineers did seed life, and we're the replicants?
maybe.
You
Well,
know?
in a way, we are kind of, if you think about
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
From that way, yeah. From
Yeah.
that perspective,
Well, yeah.
we were created by them.
Right.
So
My mom and dad had a replicant.
Yeah.
And then if I have kids, they'll be replicant.
So, yeah.
We've been replicanting all
right.
over the
So
place.
basically, the engineers created life, and then the humans created their own different kind of life.
Right,
so it's
exactly.
just a big old cycle. So interesting. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much. If I had a philosophy and a psychology degree, I probably would get far more layered understanding of Blade Runner, because it's so much more than just
Yeah, it's not and I think, like I said, going back, I think that's the problem I had with it as a kid. I wasn't just old enough to get it,
Yeah.
and I was looking for Star Wars, and it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciated watching it recently,
Oh yeah.
and I kind of want to, now it's funny, I kind of want to go back and watch the voiceover version of it to see what that's all about, because that's the one that everyone seems to hate.
That's I believe that is the
That's the original, the theatrical cut.
the thing that was forced upon Ridley Scott by the studio.
Yeah, this is long, and there's big holes of nothing, and we have to fill it and tell
Yeah.
people what's going on. And and you don't need to do that to Ridley Scott.
I think one of the other mistakes that the studio made was opening Blade Runner on 4,000 screens. That's Star Wars screen opening.
Yeah,
You need to pull it back a bit.
a bit. I mean, again, it's
I mean,
still 100.
with a budget of 150, you can't put it in art house films and expect to make your money back.
No, they had to.
But-
that's a weird position, because they had no choice. They had to put it out wide. Maybe you're right. Maybe half that. Maybe 2,500 screens.
Or maybe you open it on 3 and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I was talking with Topher about their strategy for Mother. We went and saw that a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And that was opened on way too many screens.
Yeah.
It's Aronofsky for one. I
Right.
think the studio went, "Oh, it's the guy that did Black Swan. Great, let's open it on 3,500 screens." That film ain't this film.
That's an art film.
That is an art film,
Yeah.
and that should have opened in, and I think it's I can't remember, it was 50 million budget, 30 something like that.
Yeah.
You could have gotten away with a very strong art house and some limited,
Yeah, you do 1,000 screens of that, you'll make 30 million.
Yeah. But when you open it wide and people walk in and there's 4 other people in the the theater, that's not good.
Not good. Yeah, because we saw it. We saw Blade Runner, the second weekend?
No, oh gosh, no, it was 3rd or 4th weekend.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
ways.
And there were still people in there.
There were
though.
people, you know.
15, 20, something like that, which
Which
is
I
not
was,
bad.
I was
for-
surprised.
on a 2:00 on a Saturday.
2:00 on a Saturday.
So
And
that's
saying
not
something.
terrible.
So who knows? Maybe that evening, that Saturday night, maybe the theater was maybe a third
Yeah,
full. Who
and
knows?
I don't know if I don't remember if anything big has opened since then. like in the last 2 weeks.
Well, big for us, probably not, but there's probably some piece of shit film that probably
but I mean,
pulled in
it might-
60 million its first weekend.
Right, some
That we
dumb
don't care
kids
about and don't
movie.
even, it's not even on our radar.
Yeah. Speaking of radar, we've got Thor coming up very soon.
I am pumped for that.
And of course, Last Jedi is coming. So we've got two more big ones this year.
Two more biggies. And of course, television, you know what's coming up that's pretty freaking huge.
What?
Oh, come on, man.
So
Something around the 25th, maybe,
25th.
of December?
Oh yeah, of course. And they're showing that in
the
cinemas,
theater
too. We may have to
Gotta go into the theater
do
for
that
that
and
one.
see it,
The
yeah.
big handoff from
big Doctor Who finale. Yeah. So we got some stuff coming for everybody.
Yep. Now I went on Rotten Tomatoes today.
I don't do that very much.
You know what? I up to recently I had not done it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's mentioned so often in
Yeah.
in commentary and reviews and stuff, and
This got a 12 on Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, what does that mean? I had no idea.
You take it with a grain of salt, because St. Elmo's Fire doesn't rate very high, and I love that movie. So it's not like I'm going to go, I'm interested in this film. Oh, Rotten Tomatoes says it's 40% fresh, so I won't see it. No, screw that. If I want to see it, I'm going to see it. But sometimes you're curious to see what a film, how it's been.
I always check the nerd reviews. I usually go to Ain't It Cool News or Comic Book Resource or something, and I'll check those. Like I'll look at the titles of their reviews and see, because they basically lay it out in the title of this thing sucked, or they
Not as bad as a laser beam enema.
right, exactly.
Okay.
And then I wait until I see the movie, and then I go back and read all the reviews.
Because I never read reviews in advance.
No.
So, based on that, what do you think was the review tomato score and then the audience / fan score?
Oh, I don't know. Probably. Well, see, I don't know the criteria that Rotten Tomatoes uses. Like, are they critics or are they fans?
What it is that, as best I understand, Rotten Tomatoes aggregates, the reviews done by newspapers and stuff like that. Got it. If the Los Angeles Times gives it an A or a 10 out of 10 or whatever, they weight it.
So I will say that Rotten Tomatoes, the site itself gave it an okay score, and the fans gave it a great score.
No, and also they go by percentage.
I know, but I don't know.
Percentage fresh.
Okay.
So by that you would say maybe like 70, and the fans gave it like 80 or 90.
Something like that.
Surprisingly, no.
Okay.
The reviewers gave it 88% fresh.
Okay.
But the fans gave it 81.
Okay.
So
well, that's not
a little bit
terribly
less.
bad. A little bit less.
I look at it this way: anything above 80 in this day and age, where people can't agree on the color of the damn sky at any given moment, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then you get the I think Wonder Woman got like 90 or close to 100. It got something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And the Emoji Movie got 0, 0, which is probably not even less enough for that movie.
It's like the Emoji Movie says, "Gosh, I don't know. Could we be any worse than fucking Pixels?" And the director said, "Hold my beer."
Exactly.
Because we're gonna do it.
Yep.
But we've got Sir Patrick Stewart as the poop emoji. You know what? I'm curious. I will not spend a dime of my money, and probably
I will watch
less.
his scene on YouTube to see what they use
Exactly.
him for.
Just to see
what he does.
Just to see what it is.
I mean,
and
he's on American Dad, so he's
Right.
he will do crazy shit.
Oh.
But that's a fucking paycheck for him. That's all he cared about.
Yeah. Why is a British person working in the CIA? Isn't that kind of It's like Well, you thought that the Emoji Movie was bad. Have you heard what Stewart's next project is?
No.
Oh my God. He is going to be in the sequel to
Medication time. Medication time.
we ran out of time. I will tell you in 2079.
The Not Really Names a Pod was conceived, written, and performed by Michael Reed and Dan Bauman, with Abdul Beni Hassan as the sound of splintering wood. Research, transportation, and exasperated looks by Courtney Lohner. Technical assistance by Cubase, Pro Tools, Skynet, QLab, Deep Thought, Big Brother, and Eddie, your shipboard computer. Financial consideration provided by the Wayne Foundation, Stark Industries, the Piranha Brothers, and LexCorp. Legal counsel by the Offices of Howard, Howard & Fine. Don't be a replicant, be a replican.
Boo. Self-terminating.
Retiring, thank you. Our intro music was written by Tim Akers. This podcast was sponsored by Deep Shag Records and is a production of Audio Primate. Throw us a couple stars on iTunes, why don't you? Listen, watch on YouTube, listen on SoundCloud, stream us on Stitcher, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or email us, comlink@billionpod.com. Till this happens again, I'm Dan Bauman.
I'm Michael Reed.
Hello, Z.
Audio Primate.